Hey everyone, it's Heather Marie Van Cleve with Heather Marie Speaks on the mic with Mike on 100.5 FM, 92.7 FM, and 820 AM. So excited for you guys to join us today. We've got a special guest, Tommy Thompson, who's the author of a great book called Space to Breathe Again. I'm going to interview him today and talk a little bit about his book, why he wrote it, what he's doing to make a difference in the world, and helping other people with their mental health. So welcome, Tommy. Thank you so much for being with me today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Looking forward to the time.
It's great. I'm excited that I'm able to do this remotely from Queen Bee & Company, which is my other venture located here in historic Richmond at 21 West Main Street. It's also a great place to be able to come and pause in your day, take time for your self-care, and take time to just be still and breathe for a little bit. And it's a great place to be able to pick up a copy of your book, Space to Breathe Again, which is sold here at Queen Bee & Company as well. So, Tommy, thank you again for being here. Tell us a little bit of the background of how you got started with this book, how you and I got started. Actually, we got connected through your PR guy, who is David Botkins. He saw one of my shows and he saw some of the things I do to kind of help people get spotlighted in the community, and I'm so thankful for that. So shout out to David for doing that. But tell us a little bit about how you got started in this, what you're all about, and how this book is helping other people out there in the world.
Sure. Well, I have a really varied background. So going all the way back college days, came out of college, didn't know what I wanted to do, and so decided to go to seminary and got a Master's of Divinity degree.
Oh, wow.
And then immediately after that, I was working at the time as a chaplain in a private school here in Richmond, and my brother was in business for himself, had two small businesses, and he was pulling his hair out trying to kind of figure out everything about running a business, and he invited me to join him. So even though I'd just gotten a Master's of Divinity degree, I decided to join him in business, and that kind of started a 30-year journey for us of owning and operating a wide variety of businesses.
Oh, wow.
Everything from retail businesses to, we owned a video production company, a tool manufacturing company, a screen printing company, real estate development, just all over the map.
Wow, you guys were jacks of all trades as well.
Well, kind of. We kind of figured we were in the business of being in business, so we would partner together with people who kind of knew the particular industry, and you know, I had a great number of years together and learned, you know, so much during those years. But as was probably pretty easy to do given all of that, and as we were beginning a family, I got overloaded in a major way. We were running at the particular time in my early 30s 4 different businesses.
Oh, wow.
2 in Virginia Beach area, 2 in Richmond, starting a family, and at the same time my real love and passion is teaching and trying to help people grow. So I was doing that very actively at our church, involved in teaching a large adult Sunday school class, elder at the church, headed up the search committee, and so I had so many things going on, and they were all good things. So I thought, well, what could be wrong if you're doing all these good things? Yeah. But too much is too much.
I don't know if anybody else can relate to that, but I do.
That's right. Well, it's so tempting when you have all these great opportunities and you think you're doing something good for people, but eventually it dragged me down in a major way. And I can remember early in my 30s hitting a point where I felt like I was on the verge of a nervous breakdown.
Yeah.
Everything was beginning to implode. One business was not going particularly well at the time. The stress was overwhelming. I'd put on a good face during the day, go in and do the job, excited on so many ends, and then come home and just was miserable.
Yeah, I was like burning the candle at both ends.
Oh, just so exhausted.
Yeah.
And I hit that time when I felt like I was going to have that nervous breakdown and something had to give. And I ran into a book called Margin by Richard Swenson. Okay. It's a phenomenal book. And for the first time, he introduced to me, even though I'd been a Christian and walking in my faith for a few decades, he introduced the thought that God doesn't mean for us to be exhausted.
Yeah.
That God doesn't mean for us to live overwhelmed, overloaded lives. And so all of a sudden it was this this ray of hope in what felt very hopeless as I was overwhelmed by all of these businesses. And my wife and I began to create this slow path of creating some space in our lives. Began by practicing the Sabbath, began by just decommitting from things that I could decommit from.
Now, for people that don't know what that means, practicing the Sabbath, explain that a little bit, because I think it's good to kind of educate people on what that purpose is.
Absolutely. For us, we realize that if you go all the way back in the Bible to Genesis and even the 10 Commandments, that God says, take one day out of the week and do no work.
Right.
Stop working.
Yeah.
Just rest. Well, we couldn't get everything done in 7 days.
Yeah.
So we took the very counterintuitive step of saying 1 day out of the week, we're going to cut everything off.
Yeah.
We're going to slow down. We're not going to work. All email was shut down.
And it's so wise to do that. It's important for your mental health to be able to take that moment of self-care for yourself and not do anything.
Absolutely. It's God's gift, and yet we resist it so much.
Yeah.
And so that kind of began to give us a ray that, well, it was possible to live the way God wanted us to live. And so we began living that way and learning more and more about creating space in our lives. And what we didn't realize is that it was so critical because there was a storm right around the corner. And for us, that storm was in 2010 when our daughter, Perrin, who was age 20 at the time, a sophomore in college, was diagnosed with stage 4 kidney cancer.
Oh, wow.
And it was, life got immediately just turned completely upside down. It was very advanced in her spine, took constant treatment, constant doctor's appointments, scans, radiation, chemotherapy, immunotherapy, pretty much around the clock for what lasted about 6.5 years.
Oh, wow.
As we walked with her through that. God did so many amazing things during those days, but it was excruciating. I mean, beyond description. I'm sure so many people who have kids can understand that. But had we not already begun to create space in our lives, I don't think we would have ever survived those years.
It's like it was preparing you for this moment.
It was preparation for the storm. And so it didn't make the storm less stormy. It was still, incredibly difficult, but it enabled us to survive what a lot of families don't really survive. And so it was a 6.5-year journey, and during those years, we really thought God might heal her, but she survived much longer than the doctors expected, and died the day after Thanksgiving 2016.
Oh, wow.
Tough, started a whole new journey of grief, again, of which space is so critical.
Yeah.
And I realized when she died, and all of a sudden I had a vacuum of time that had been completely devoted to her, I realized that people all around me who weren't even under a storm were drowning. And so I just felt this conviction, partially out of my love and calling to teach, that I needed to be a voice to help people live differently.
Yeah.
And our world's gotten that much worse over these 10 years. The distraction.
It's true.
They weren't really to speak of. I mean, cell phones were in their infancy. Smartphones were 2010. And so I felt like this is just a message that has to be told. We have to give people some sense of hope that there's another way to live their lives.
Yeah.
So that's what initiated this writing, which was a new venture for me. I'd spoken and taught a lot, but writing was a new venture to me. But it's what initiated Space to Breathe Again.
That's amazing. And what's so cool about it too is the book has kind of the trees in the shape of lungs.
Yes.
Which I loved that. And the color is very calming and soothing, but it's so important. And I love to be able to help other people share their stories on this platform, because you never know who it can help. And I love that sometimes there are things in our lives that we don't understand. It's a struggle, but God uses all things for good. And He allows us to be able to turn something that wasn't so great of an experience to help other people. And your story is, I'm sure, has helped people already and is going to continue to help other people that might have experienced loss, that might have experienced overwhelming feelings of, just constant movement and motion. In America in itself, I think we forget to pause. We forget to take that moment to rest. In other countries like Europe, they make it a necessity, intentionally taking that moment to pause, but we are just like programmed to just constantly hustle.
Oh, absolutely. And I've realized it even after this many years, several decades of working to learn to create space. I still battle it.
Yeah.
I still battle that lure of the smartphone. I still realize that I have this habit of shallow breathing. Mm-hmm. And so it's a constant, even for me, when it's at the front of my mind, that I still have to remind myself to slow down, to allow space for quiet in my life, to allow space for God, to allow space for people. Mm-hmm. And so it's so critical, I think, for joy and life to enter in. And I just don't think we realize in our culture the way our speed is choking the life out of us. We're going faster and faster, and we're more and more miserable, and we think somehow the answer is just go a little bit faster, a little bit harder, and we'll eventually get there. And it's such a lie.
It's also a coping mechanism, I think, for people that are trying to avoid any kind of pain or struggle or trauma that they've had in their life. People can cope in different ways, whether it's with addictions or with, sometimes you can be addicted to being busy. I mean, that's definitely something that you can kind of go to something that's familiar, that might not be a healthy thing, but it's what you're used to. But the great news is that our brains can actually be reprogrammed.
Absolutely.
It's a proven fact, and if we take the time to actually reprogram it and to get our mindset right in the morning of, make margin for resting time, make time for yourself to be able to, have self-care, to pause for a moment. I love that this space that I've been given and blessed by God to be able to have as well, it gives that opportunity for people to be able to come in here and press pause for a moment and just breathe and have a cup of tea.
Exactly. This is a place that invites that.
Yeah.
And we need places like that.
We really do. It's kind of slowing things down from the hustle of the day and just slowing it down to be able to help your own life be more flourishing. And
the harder and the more frenetic life is, the more important it is.
Yeah.
One of the first things my wife and I did when our daughter was diagnosed with cancer is we doubled down on our morning time. Mm-hmm. We already had the pattern, the discipline, and the habit of spending fairly spacious time with God and in quiet. But we knew that in order to deal with this new level of stress, we had to go further. And so that counterintuitive thing of allowing space for quiet when that in some senses just screamed stress, we knew that we had to do that. And so we doubled down, literally doubled the amount of time that we spent in quiet, because it was our only way of surviving that 24 hours.
Absolutely. And it's really important for us to be intentional on what we're focusing on during our quiet time, because especially people that struggle already with depression and anxiety, if you go into a quiet space, it can be even more traumatizing than being in a loud space, because your thoughts will start to consume you. Right. And I always encourage people too, whether you're into yoga, whether you believe in God or not, whether you believe in all these different things, make sure that your mind is focused on the positive things so you don't get stuck in this black hole. To focus on the positive things, to get your mindset, like I said, right and focused on where you're wanting to be, the goals that you're wanting to go on, but not in a busy way, but in a calm and peaceful way of focusing on something positive.
Well, exactly. And one of the things that I felt strongly about in writing this book is, while I wanted to inspire people to create space in their lives and give them a new vision, I also wanted to give them intensely practical tools.
Yeah.
How do you go about doing it? Because a lot of people can kind of get that sense early on that this is a good way, but they don't know how to do it.
So you've got that in here.
Oh, absolutely.
Outlined in here.
Every chapter deals very specifically. I include what I call breathing exercises, which is a practical steps to take that first step in the direction of space. And so the book is really kind of filled with practical steps, things like turning your car into a hidden sanctuary.
Oh, yes.
Instead of always having noise all throughout our car.
Yeah.
Different steps that help people move from this place of overload to a place of spaciousness.
Absolutely, and the car for me is my sanctuary for sure. It's a place where I can unwind after I've been busy all day and have silence. It's also a great place to be able to have conference calls because you're not distracted from the everyday rush of what's going on. But it's a great, easy read book. It's got practical steps in there. It talks about Perrin, which I love in here, and your relationship with her and the dedication to it at the beginning, which is just so sweet. I loved it. It definitely touched my heart. And I know that people have dealt with, again, a lot of stress, a lot of heartache, a lot of uncertainty in these days and age. There's been a lot of loss, unfortunately, from suicide and also from sicknesses that people have gone through through the pandemic. So this is definitely a must read. It's something that people can benefit from in so many different ways.
Thanks.
So with people that have been struggling during this pandemic, I love to be able to give them a little nugget of wealth of information to kind of help them through their struggle, and not only through the benefits that you've got in this book, but what would you say to someone that might, need that little encouragement of taking those steps for taking care of themselves and reading something that can benefit them? But if they're in a place of struggle and maybe panic because they've gone through loss, what would be your word of advice for them?
Well, I'd probably say a few things. I would say the first thing is to embrace hope. I find so many people that are overloaded don't believe there's an alternative. They think we're in a 24/7 world, the pressures, this is just the way it has to be. And one of the things, the subtitle of this is Hope for the Overloaded and Overwhelmed.
I loved that.
So if we can begin with hope, that is a first step. And then I just love to encourage people to take small steps, 2 small steps. Just begin breathing deeply. Just begin to feel the stress relieve as you begin to take some deep breaths. And then begin to enjoy slowing down.
Yeah.
Just drive a little bit slower, go a little bit slower. I promise you, you will not lose one fraction of productivity. And yet it will offer so much to your spirit and your soul if we just learned to slow our pace.
Yeah. I learned about slowing down and living a more simple life when I went over to Costa Rica. Their whole theme over there is Pura Vida, and it's about living a simple life. And it really changed my whole mentality of slowing down, especially living in Chicago for 5 years. It's a constant rush, hustle. The road rage that goes on out there with the traffic. We have so many things that distract us in our life, and so it's important, especially to slow down. And it doesn't change. I still do many things. I still juggle many hats, but it's all about time management. It's about self-care. It's about prioritizing. And sometimes it's about saying no. You don't have to say yes to everything, and you don't have to burn the candle at both ends to succeed in life. There are so many different opportunities that God will put in front of you if you just be still and trust that He's got a purpose.
In fact, I've come to believe more and more that space is an absolutely essential ingredient to purpose.
Yeah.
That when we're moving so fast, we're spreading ourselves out so much that we can't focus on that which is important.
Yeah.
And so by creating some space in our lives, we're able more than ever to lean into our purpose.
Absolutely.
What we're created for.
Absolutely. And no one can take your purpose from you. You have a destiny that God created just for you, and this probably wasn't something you thought you'd be doing in the early parts of your life, but later on, I tell people layers of what your purpose is come out in due season, in due time. And there's things that I have experienced in my life that I never thought I'd be doing. Certainly opening a tea room during the middle of a pandemic was not part of my 2021 plan, but I just trusted that God brings certain people into your life for a reason, for a season, for a purpose, and that we're put here to be able to make a difference in the world and to help others. Our whole purpose in life is to serve. It's to be a servant first and foremost. It says the first commandment is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, and the second is just as great, to love your neighbor as yourself.
Absolutely.
And so you're definitely doing this with this book. How can people find this book?
Well, you can find it right on Amazon, so
Okay.
it's available in softcover, hardcover, ebook, audiobook, about every version that you could want.
That's
So,
amazing. And you can find it here at Queen Bee and Company.
Exactly.
Open Tuesday through Saturday from 11 till 5. You can also come in here to find a place to breathe and a space to breathe, to enjoy some tea, some quiet time, some self-care. So I'm so excited that you were able to come here today. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
On
thanks for
social
having me.
media and on the web, what is your address so people can find you on there?
On the web, it's very easy. It's www.tommythompson.org.
Okay.
So it's easy to find me, and I have a wide variety of resources, because what I'm doing a lot now with my time is coaching and consulting and helping people along those lines. And then probably my main social media is Instagram, author Tommy Thompson. So.
Great, that's wonderful. Well, thank you again so much for coming today. Special thanks to our sponsors for the Heather Marie Speaks talk show, RVA Fashion Week, VA Style Magazine, Very Ashley, 707, and the 707 Red Button Club, and of course, Queen Bee and Company. So until next time, thank you so much, Tommy. Join us for the next Community Spotlight here at heathermariespeaks.com, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.